All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, an extra tired edition of Unqualified Analysis. We have started the long journey of travel that is going to be the end of this month of July, heading into August and creeping over into September. A lot of busy weekends coming up. I did the math the other day. I have basically 2 weekends free in the next 6. So yeah, we've got a lot going on here, folks, and it's beautiful. It's truly a beautiful time. That is all to say, I'm a little bit tired, coming off of a very frustrating day. And that's about all I'll say about that. You know, sometimes things are just dumb. Sometimes things, people, and stuff going on is just dumb, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Tomorrow is a new day. Tomorrow is a new day, and with that said, we have got a AFC South preview for you, our third edition of the divisional previews as we ramp our way up into the football season, going towards the NFL season, and we are feeling good about it. So, before we got that, we got some headlines to go through. Try and keep it to a reasonable length so that the computer doesn't almost die on me this time. I'm talking, and we haven't spoken since I uploaded this video, obviously, or this past, you know what I'm saying, last week's video. We haven't spoken since then. I'm telling you right now, I plugged this computer in, and I'm talking like 5 seconds later it died. Like literally, I was within a hair's breadth of this thing dying on me, and who knows what happens at that point. It's all that, you know what, all water under the bridge. We're good to go. We saved it just in time, and we got that thing to the finish line. That is all to say, I'm going to try not to bloviate as much as I did last time. No promises there. As you know, I can be long-winded when my brain starts going down rabbit holes as I am talking. But this is Unqualified Analysis. I'm your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Shoot me a DM. Shoot me an email to unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Subscribe, share, wherever you're listening to it. Maybe help me grow this thing a little bit. Haven't really thought about the consequences of this thing growing at all, but you know what? We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Until then, keep it plugging along. Keep sharing this thing and keep us growing in the right direction. With that said, let's hop right into the show here. We got some headlines, and I am sure to miss a couple. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, if that is the case, which it almost certainly is. But here's what I got. Here's the most notable headlines. So first off today, before I forget about it, Courtland Sutton did sign a big deal today. I believe it was 4 years, $92 million, so like $23 million a year. Perfectly reasonable deal for Courtland Sutton. He's not going to be getting that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown sort of money, but he deserves over $20 million a year. He is being paid where he fits in the rankings of number one receivers. We are currently in a stacked era of number one receivers, so $23 million a year puts him right up there in the upper echelons, right commensurate with a number one receiver. We'll just put it that way. So Courtland Sutton got himself a deal done. We also had Josh Metellus from the Vikings. He signed a 3-year, $36 million extension on Saturday. Could reach up to $42 million. The main point here, $25 million of that 36 base is guaranteed. So it's basically like the first 2 years plus a little bit. I mean, if you're averaging it out, if you average it out, it's $24 million in the first 2 years, and it's $25 million guaranteed. So pretty good, and pretty much on par with the deals that we see players getting in free agency. Just that usual sort of model, 3 years with a team option in the third year. The first 2 are pretty much fully guaranteed. Seems to have been a compromise that has been, I don't know if it was strictly spoken at any point, but it is something that the teams and the players have both kind of come to, and ultimately it's a higher risk for the players as far as maybe guaranteed money and job security is concerned, but the teams can cut you at any point, so it's not really as big of a factor as maybe it was once thought of to have those shorter term deals. And hey, if you play well on it, you can make some more money after that. Love to see him get the deal done with Josh Metellus. He wasn't sitting out practice at all, and that, hey, not saying anything against players that do sit out practice. Get your money in any possible way you can, because there is no guarantee of money on the other side if you negotiate in quote-unquote good faith, show up to practice every day. Well, you pop an Achilles while you are negotiating a contract. I don't think the player would look back on that and say it was worth it to not sit out practice. But Josh Metellus, being the vocal leader he is, a guy that's always been a grinder, it does make sense for him to be at practice. And he said as much in press conferences afterwards of why he wasn't sitting out practice during those negotiations. But glad they got it done. Glad he got paid, and I'm glad nothing awkward happened in the intervening time. Also, tight end Jake Ferguson. I'll tell you what, the Cowboys not signing CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons to new long-term deals. Negotiations clearly going great on those, but hey, we're going to pay Jake Ferguson, that's for sure. 4 years, $52 million. I mean, hey, it puts him in the top 10 of tight ends. I mean, maybe top 5. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it ranks him up there pretty highly. It's a nice little payday for Jake Ferguson. Which, hey, I don't hate the contract. He's a good tight end and obviously has some good rapport with Dak Prescott. I mean, it begs the question why you didn't just pay Dalton Schultz a few years ago, but when you have, I mean, I don't even know why I just asked that. When you have Jake Ferguson on a rookie deal, why do you need to pay Dalton Schultz? Not that they did anything with that setup there, but younger player, I suppose you sign him to a long-term deal. The Cowboys are a joke. I don't really feel a need to even talk about them. Yes, they get a lot of eyes on the screen. They have a lot of fans. Jerry Jones has been a good marketer for a long time, but they're not a serious organization. They're not going to win it all this year. For my money, I would put them at the bottom of the division, especially since they got some more offensive line injuries. Today, Tyler Guyton went down with an injury. I think they had another offensive lineman go down previously, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that front. But an already bad group is getting thinner on that part, and listen, this is just not an organization that's serious about winning, no matter what Jerry Jones tells you, and those wonderful intonations, those wonderful sentences that he can put together. Just not the case. They're not serious about winning at all. They're serious about getting eyes on the television so they make more money. Nothing more, nothing less. So yeah, that's what's going on with the Cowboys right now. Who's to say if they actually pay Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb? History would tell you that they do. But I question the negotiating tactics that Jerry Jones is employing. I will just leave it there, I suppose. Outside of that, so I guess first off, we can kind of hit this pretty quickly. Donald Trump, did you hear about this? Did you hear about this, folks? Donald Trump saved college sports last week. You could tell because that's basically what the title of the executive order was that he signed. What did he do with this executive order, you ask? Well, I'm glad you did ask their nameless, faceless person that's just being used as a device to move the conversation along. So what happened here and what he did with his executive order was he outlawed the third-party pay-for-play NIL contracts. So hey, he saved college football, man. He got it done. Hey, thanks DJT. Except for it was already explicitly prohibited, and there was already an enforcement system, internal enforcement, I guess. So if you got the law coming in over top, there is that. However, I would counter by saying there is a higher standard of proof when you get criminal charges involved or anything like that. Anything legally speaking, especially since it's not civil at that point. You've codified it into, I guess you could call it criminal law, misdemeanor, whatever you want to say. That's not really my area of expertise in the law. But I do know the standard of proof is higher on that one, and good luck with these people that have been writing contracts all their lives, finding a hole big enough for you to exploit and convict on charges of circumventing this executive order. So it's a headline that really did numbers with the dumbasses out there. People that just, can't get enough of DJT. They loved that headline. I'll tell you what. But problem is, it doesn't really do shit. It's just another PR thing. That's pretty much all it was. So I'll leave it there on that. Just a nothing burger of an executive order, and you can tell because no one talked about it like 2 days later. Just doesn't matter at all, quite frankly. Back to football. Not talking about politics, I suppose, anymore. Just wanted to put that out there for any of you that may think this actually had an impact whatsoever, and wasn't just a PR ploy. What else we got? Oh, yeah. Shocking release, by the way. And I should have had this at the top of the show because it's the most fascinating story that we had last week. And I may ultimately talk too long on this, but I just got to talk about it here. So it's the first real shocker of training camp here. The Raiders cut defensive tackle Christian Wilkins 1 year after he signed a 4-year, $110 million contract. I think I got those numbers right. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it was 4 years, 110. High guarantees on that contract, too. So initially, the story and the party line that the team was sticking to was that they weren't happy with the progression of a foot injury and the rehab therein that Christian Wilkins sustained last season early on. He really didn't play hardly at all with the Raiders last season. Apparently, he was recommended surgery, had about 1 million second opinions, finally found a doctor in the 15 dozen that he went to that told him, hey, you don't need surgery. He's like, hey, I like this guy's opinion. We're going to go with that one. So he decided to rehab throughout the offseason. Wouldn't you know it, it seems like the preponderance of opinions that he sought were ultimately correct, and he probably should have gotten surgery. I'm just kind of reading between the lines on that one. So Raiders unhappy with how the whole injury was handled. They decided to release him, essentially fire him for cause. So not only are they trying to void the guarantees, they're trying to get some of the guaranteed money back that they already paid him, which good luck on that front, hombre. You better have a damn good reason for doing so. That being said, we're getting some more details coming out for, kind of lending credence to the idea that maybe there was a little bit more going on than a foot injury that wasn't handled well. And generally speaking, if it's just the way someone handles an injury, I feel like you can get past that as a team just so long as the guy is on your side, he's a good team player, he's a good guy in the locker room. Very important. There's a reason I put emphasis on that part. So today, as I'm recording this Monday, Adam Schefter goes on the Pat McAfee show, and he basically kind of spills the tea from his digging around the organization. Apparently, the tipping point on this, in addition to the foot injury that was already ongoing, and that's going to be the justification that they use when they ultimately, Christian Wilkins already filed a grievance. This thing is going, I don't really know exactly what the process is for NFL grievances. I think it's mostly handled internally. I would imagine a real lawsuit is going to happen at some point, especially if Christian Wilkins, if it's decided that he has to pay back some degree of guarantees. I can almost assure you that this is going to big boy court if it hasn't already. Again, I do not know whether they said they filed a grievance, so I assume this is an internal process that Christian Wilkins is using, but they're going to go to big boy court if ultimately this does not go in Christian Wilkins' favor, and likely goes to big boy court anyways if it goes the other way. So this is not a story that's going to go away for quite some time. The reason why I emphasize the locker room, though, is I got all that mostly not related bullshit out of the way. So there's a story that came out today, Adam Schefter, back to that on the Pat McAfee show. He told a story where apparently the tipping point was Christian Wilkins kissing a teammate on the top of the head, or at the very least attempting to kiss a teammate on the top of the head. Not really a whole lot of context as to what the situation was there. It just was made abundantly clear that the player that Christian Wilkins either attempted to or succeeded in kissing on top of the head decided that made him quite uncomfortable, and ultimately the incident was described as weird. And it was described as weird before I ultimately got the details that you just heard there, and before the public got the details that you just heard there. So honestly, I thought it was way worse than it ended up being. I mean, on the list of things that could have happened for a weird story in the locker room, this could have been a whole lot worse. Let's just say, could have been a whole lot worse. Go look up some old stories of Charles Haley in the locker room. Different times. Could have been that. Could have been that. Yeah, just, I'm not going to say those stories on the podcast. You go ahead and look those up if you are interested. They are wild. Wild. Charles Haley was a wild boy. That's besides the point, though. But for that to be the tipping point, that's where I'm really focusing on here. For that incident to be the tipping point where, frankly, I understand it maybe was a little bit strange. Like, not really a whole lot of that happened in the football locker room in the first place. I mean, hey, I'm comfortable in my sexuality. I'd be a little bit uncomfortable if one of my boys just came over and kissed me softly on the head. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It is weird, but probably not weird enough to report to HR, which tells me, I mean, especially in a football locker room we're talking about. You get a lot of leeway in a football locker room, maybe not quite so much with that type of stuff, but if that's a one-time thing, then I think you kind of sweep that to the side, like, okay, he still a teammate here, so we can just kind of have a discussion about that, be like, hey, don't ever fucking do that again, and then we move on with our lives. But for it to go all the way to him being cut by the team, and maybe it was used as a convenient sort of get-out point, it feels like the foot injury was a lot more of an excuse in the story that came out, because the foot injury is what they led with, which, honestly, I'm saying all this to say there's stuff that we haven't heard about, I feel like. I just have a hunch on this. No credible sources whatsoever, obviously. I'll put it this way. And I'm not the only one, just because my work experience doesn't make me the only one that picks up on this. But just based on my experience listening to stories, maybe not similar to this particular story, but kind of seeing how this goes from time to time, with it being as non-specific as possible here, usually this type of incident is just the tip of the iceberg. In my own personal experience view, if this was the tipping point and there was some events leading up to this that we are not privy to and may not become privy to forever, basically. I mean, it might take a while for stories to get out, but I have a hard time believing that it was just one smooch on the top of the head that ultimately sent this thing off the rails. I have a feeling that there was other stuff going on that's already had his teammates feeling uncomfortable around him behind closed doors. We'll just put it that way. Either way, it's a weird situation. I mean, with the Brian Flores connection, there's talk about the Vikings maybe signing him. Listen, man, I don't have a good feeling about this one. I'd prefer not. I think we got a good locker room right now, really good leadership. Maybe we just don't take the risk on that one. But also, so here's the thing also. He probably needs foot surgery. There's a good chance you'd just be signing the guy to go ahead and sit on the pine all year. So with the injury situation, there's not really much reason to sign him in the first place. But I just have a feeling that there is more. Who's to say if it'll come out? But I have a feeling we're going to hear more stories as the weeks, months, years go on, as to how this transpired. Because there is more to this. I can assure you of this. There is more to this story than what has been stated publicly, because there are missing components to the story that make it not make sense the way that it currently is laid out. So you're telling me one-time incident, one-time incident like this, and you just cut him off the bat, and you're using that as a secondary justification to the actual foot injury, I don't buy it one bit. So I'm interested to see where this story goes. This is a kind of a fucked up story, but a bit of a fascinating story for me personally. So I will be following this. We will update as we go along. But one more headline for you before we get into the AFC South preview. What are we doing time-wise? 20 minutes, not ideal. Probably should not have talked as long on that one, but fascinated by the story. So Justin Fields had the whole Jets fan base on the brink, just kind of staring at the edge. I mean, hey, hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. That's what the Jets were singing to themselves in their head as they were watching Justin Fields get carted off following a undisclosed foot injury in practice. Turns out, just dislocated a undisclosed toe, which very painful. Understandable why you would want to be carted off after that, and probably for the best. Ultimately, not something that kept him out very long. I think he is already back at practice. So crisis averted on that front. The Jets season, they were staring right down the barrel of possibly the number one overall pick if Justin Fields isn't out there. Even with Justin Fields out there, they still might be a top 5 pick. They're not a very good football team in the first place. So, hang in there, Jets fans. I'd love to say it's going to get better. Just based on history, I cannot guarantee such a thing. So, all I can say is good luck. There you go. That's all I got. Good luck. Okay, so that's pretty much it with the headlines. Again, sure I missed some stuff in there, but Go to Adam Schefter's Twitter if you want the extra headlines there. That's kind of where I fall on it. I just kind of pulled the ones that interest me. Very busy weekend. I didn't have a whole lot of time to pick out headlines for the most part. Okay, so I'm gonna get a swig of this here Gatorade. Good, that's out of the way. With that said, we got ourselves the AFC South preview. Okay, that, interestingly enough, I had a friend just text me about the Christian Wilkins story. I'm going to reply to him in about, optimistically, let's call it 45 minutes or so. We can kind of breeze through the AFC South. Not the best division in football. Some may argue it's the worst division in football, in fact, but you know what? It's got parity if nothing else. You know, most of these teams are within spitting distance of how bad the others are. So, you know, everyone might not be very good, but everyone's on the same level. That's the best thing I can say about the AFC South. And I can't even say they're all on the same level because there are probably a couple of these teams that are going to be just god-awful. And, you know, with that hyping up, let's just get into the AFC South, man. Did I sell hard enough on that one? Man, I really feel like I got some people to stick around with that little spiel there. But we're going down reverse divisional standings today, as we have been doing so. Starting off with the division winner of last year, we have got the Houston Texans. They got to the playoffs and got run off the field, if you may remember last season. But 2 straight years making the playoffs, you can call that some momentum. I would call that, you know, playing in a really bad division last year, and there's a reason they fired Bobby Slowick. Just because the offensive line was bad does not mean it gave him an excuse to not call a very good offense in the first place. So he's out of there. They brought in a new guy. Don't ask me who it is. I can't remember to save my life. They brought in, I believe, someone. I think it was someone else off the 49ers tree. Not entirely sure on that front. But they brought in a couple players. Got some players coming off of injury. For what it's worth, they did overhaul the offensive line, but maybe not the best group in the world. Let's just talk about it, though, shall we? Let's just go side of the ball by side of the ball. And let me tell you what I think about the team. So we're starting off on offense. Obviously, quarterback is still C.J. Stroud. Got banged up last year just with all the pressure that he faced. And really, once Tank Dell went out, it was kind of that was kind of all she wrote after that gruesome leg injury earlier on in the year, or really kind of later in the year, I guess, probably around Thanksgiving, Christmas. I can't quite remember which one of those. But CJ Stroud still there, still a bright futured young quarterback that they need to do right by. Would not be the first time that was not the case for the Houston Texans franchise. They started their franchise by doing just that. So we'll see how that goes, but right now, not really a question mark for me, CJ Stroud. I feel pretty confident in him. Maybe not quite as confident as I was going into last season, but I do think he'll probably perform better this year because I think he's just got a better offensive skill group, I would say. So in the backfield, right now, Joe Mixon is slated as the starter. He is out with an injury currently, but they signed Nick Chubb off the streets. He waited a long time to get a contract, but ultimately did sign with the Houston Texans. Bruiser back there. Who knows what he has left in the tank after that gruesome leg injury a couple years back. But we'll see what he has. I think he's going to get a good amount of rest because Joe Mixon is no spring chicken either. So probably going to be splitting reps there. Third string is Dameon Pierce, who we'll see if he stays on the roster. Woody Marks is the fourth string, and yes, I am biased. I make no bones about that. He is a longtime Mississippi State guy before he transferred out to USC for his final year. And hey, I don't blame Woody Marks because Mississippi State was 2-10 last year, and at least USC was billed as having some degree of chance to make the college football playoff, and even if they didn't, he probably had a much better time playing 7-5 football in LA than he would have had playing 2-10 football in Starkville, Mississippi, because we still would have been 2-10 with Woody Marks, make no mistake about it. We were just a terrible football team. I love me some Woody Marks. And Dameon Pierce, it's cold to say, but it's just the cold hard truth here, man. He has, his usefulness has expired on this team. He was a good stopgap before they got Joe Mixon, ultimately showed his limitations in some of those bad years that they had. Yes, he was running behind a bad offensive line, but you saw he was getting banged up. Very physical player, so that lends to being banged up even more if you are prone to being banged up. And right now he is out with an injury. So, reading the tea leaves here, listen, if it were me, I would be going Woody Marks over Dameon Pierce at this point as the third string running back, especially since he kind of brings a semi-similar skill set to what Joe Mixon would bring to the table as far as the versatility, catching out of the backfield. I mean, he's the leading receiver as far as receptions in Mississippi State history. So he's very proficient and very experienced with catching the ball out of the backfield. And as a runner, he is very versatile in that as well. Underrated as a runner because he didn't get the chance to do it much, but you saw it last year with USC, just picked it up seamlessly. And everyone who watched it at Mississippi State could tell you that was going to happen even if he didn't get a whole lot of reps in that Mike Leach offense for many years at a time. So I feel like Woody Marks is going to be that third string running back. I think Dameon Pierce might be on the outside looking in for this roster. That's just me reading the tea leaves, though. Good backfield, though. Aging backfield, but and I wouldn't put it at the top of the league by any stretch of the imagination, but no worse than middle of the pack, I would say. Probably a little bit above that Mendoza line, if you want to put a finer point on it. Wide receiver core, Nico Collins is back, bona fide number one receiver. He's going to get paid like it here soon. Christian Kirk, he got cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Texans pick him up. We'll see what they get out of him on that one. Tank Dell coming off of that gruesome knee injury, currently slated as the third string. And then they got Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, and John Mechie as the depth behind it. Still probably need to get one more big-time receiver. Maybe not even big-time, just a bona fide number two. And we'll see if Christian Kirk can emerge as that. He's been that at various points throughout his career, especially his early time with the Jaguars before he suffered that, I believe it was either core or groin injury. I can't remember exactly which one that he suffered. He was balling before that, though, when he went down with the Jaguars. Especially with the Cardinals, there's a reason he got paid the way he did with the Jaguars, and it wasn't just because Trent Baalke is a dipshit GM, part of it for sure, but he did play very, very well with the Cardinals before he went over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if he can just capture some of that, and that's certainly no guarantee at this stage in Christian Kirk's career with all the injuries he's sustained, but if he can kind of get some semblance of that, you might be cooking with gas. I don't really feel very confident on that front, we'll just say. Tank Dell, we just got to see what he looks like coming back off that injury. I mean, and you saw it with Nick Chubb when he came back off of that gruesome injury that he had. There's no guarantee that you are going to be the same player coming off of a major injury like that. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that you won't be the same player. It's just a matter of whether this new player that you are can still perform at a high level and can still be a difference maker. It's yet to be seen for Tank Dell at this point, so jury's out on that one. If he can come back and have a big-time year this upcoming season, that would be huge for this offense. We'll just have to wait and see what he looks like coming off of that injury. Does he still have the speed? Does he still have the change of direction? We'll see. We just don't know right now. And then, of course, Dalton Schultz as the tight end still staple at that spot. I believe they drafted Luke Lachey this year. He's the fourth-string tight end, so he'll probably be practice squad if anything. They got Brevin Jordan as the second string, Cade Stover as the third string. Dalton Schultz, solid tight end, solid receiving tight end. Maybe not so much as a blocker, but you don't really have Dalton Schultz in there for his blocking, so I'll just put it that way. Jacob Johnson as the fullback. I'm unfamiliar with your game. I do apologize. So here's the offensive line, and whew, okay, get a load of this. We got Cam Robinson at left tackle. Sure, why not? Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Jake Andrews at center. Titus Howard at right guard. And Blake Fisher at right tackle. Listen, only way you can go is up from where you were last year. I mean, Laramie Tunsil wasn't even good on last year's offensive line. And seems like the Commanders might have a habit of trading for former big-time players that maybe aren't quite what they used to be and paying in a way that would indicate that they are the same players that they used to be. Jury's out on whether that'll bear out with Laramie Tunsil this season, but he was not very good last year. I just don't know if they really upgraded at all in the offensive line. They shipped some guys out there, obviously. They kind of retooled it, brought in some guys. I just don't know if this is necessarily going to work out in a way that the GM over there is hoping for. Nick Caserio, we'll see if it works out for you, but I am less than optimistic. If I had to, kind of finger where this offense is going to be, I'd probably say middle of the pack. I still very much believe in C.J. Stroud. I think Joe Mixon still has some left in the tank, though we may have already had his last really good year. This year might be his last really good year. I don't see him necessarily going past like next year and still being a productive back, and that's even kind of stretching it and giving him some grace because I don't feel like the shelf life on Joe Mixon is a whole lot longer than it's already gone, and it's gone longer than I expected, quite frankly. So yeah, I don't know about that, but he is still a solid player. I like the depth in the backfield that they have. So with that, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, I think the passing offense will be solid, if nothing else. The running offense is going to be the difference there, and I just don't know with the offensive line. So I'm putting them right there at the middle of the pack. I don't think they'll be terrible necessarily, but they have the potential to be. Make no mistake about it. I just kind of have a little bit of faith in C.J. Stroud, and you just hope he got an upgrade at the offensive coordinator. D'Amico Ryans certainly better hope he got an upgraded offensive coordinator. I'll just put it that way. Whether fair or not, take that implication for what it is. Defensively, way better than offense. I will say that, and this team is a team that is built to be carried by the defense. They got Will Anderson coming back, Tim Settle Jr., Foley Fatukasi there, and Daniil Hunter. Anderson and Daniil Hunter may be the best duo rushing off the edge in the entire country. Also, the entire NFL. Also, you got Danico Autry waiting in the wings there. He's currently recovering from an injury, but he will feature prominently in this lineup going forward. I guarantee you of that. I mean, just look at the second string depth, though. I mean, they got Sheldon Rankins coming off the bench, Mario Edwards coming off the bench. Like I said, Danico Autry. They very deep defensive line that they have, and Henry To'o, pretty solid in weak side linebacker, outside linebacker. Aziz Al-Shaair playing the middle there. E.J. Speed on the other side. Solid front seven, really solid front seven. Very good pass rushing front seven. Very deep front seven as well. So then you go on the outside there. They draft Kamari Lassiter in the draft, which is hilarious. Just hilarious. I mean, maybe they didn't have the offensive lineman at that point. I think that was ultimately the case because it wasn't a super deep draft as far as top end talent is concerned. The Chiefs did get Josh Simmons later in the first round, so we'll say you had the opportunity to draft one if you truly wanted to. But Kamari Lassiter is there. Derek Stingley, the incumbent, already there, one of the highest paid players in the entire league. Then you got Kalen Bullock and C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming over in a trade from the Eagles. Also, Jimmy Ward currently out with an injury right now, who probably slotted into Kalen Bullock's spot. Or maybe Kalen Bullock is good enough to where he'll keep that job. Either way, it just means there's depth on the back end, which is really all you're looking for. And, of course, Jalen Petrie playing the nickel corner spot. Let's just cut to the chase on this one. This is a top 10 defense easy in my mind. I mean, they've got the personnel to do it. They have the coordinator / head coach in D'Amico Ryans. Obviously, maybe not quite as big for defensive development as it is for quarterback development, but the coordinator is the head coach. The defensive scheme is the defensive scheme, no matter what. Okay, cool. So I just figured out like bad reception. I gotta stop looking at texts from people. But besides the point, don't worry about my social life right now. We're talking about football. Top 10 unit for sure. D'Amico Ryans is the defensive coordinator, already a great defensive coordinator. They've brought in tremendous talent across the board on the defensive side of the ball. And in fact, they just continued to bring in talent, even when they probably didn't need it. So this has the makings of a top 5 unit for sure this year, especially if Derek Stingley can continue to emerge as one of the best cornerbacks in the entire league. If they hit on Kamari Lassiter and C.J. Gardner-Johnson still has something left in the tank, I mean, they could be a shutdown passing defense this year. I think they're already going to be pretty solid in the run, especially Tim Settle and Foley Fatukasi. Pretty good duo there on the inside as far as stopping the run. And we talked about all the depth there. I mean, if you told me at the end of the season that the Houston Texans had the best defense in the NFL, wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to call for that outright. But if you told me that after the year, that wouldn't shock me one bit because they are loaded on the defensive side of the ball. So taking it all together, probably a middle-of-the-road offense, a high-level defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL, if I had to guess, going into this season. My bandwidth on them, I could say probably worst-case scenario, could be 7-10. I don't put that past them. And if you sustain even more injuries on the offensive line, if you simply can't run the ball and you're just willing the defense to do better, maybe you get to 8-9 with that setup. I don't know. You do have C.J. Stroud as the quarterback. I've just seen this movie too many times. You know, bad offense, great defense. Eventually, the defense wilts unless you are the 2001 Ravens. Like an all-time great defense, like which year was it? The 2014 Broncos, whichever one was the one that won the championship with Peyton Manning, who could not throw a football anymore as their quarterback. And also, well, sometimes it wasn't, but the other guy in there was Brock Osweiler, and the win-loss made Brock Osweiler look like a damn star in that team. But that's the type of defense that you need to overcome a bad offense, which both those teams had bad offenses. Make no mistake about it. And I'm just not calling for that out of the game. Maybe some players take a step forward and really surprise me, and they turn themselves into an all-time great defense. Who's to say? I just say there's a possibility for that setup, and if that setup happens, 7-10 is in the offing. Just putting it out there. Best case scenario, in a bad division like this, with a lot of great players on defense going up against some bad offenses in the division, 11-6 wouldn't surprise me. Now, you're going to get a lot of people calling them fraudulent because they are beating up on that bad division, if that is in fact the case. But, I mean, all you have to be is competent on offense. You just keep it middle of the road, maybe have some flashes here and there, but ultimately you are just holding the fort down, getting just enough points in a game to win. The defense is good enough to do the rest of the job for you. So I would say in the best case scenario, probably 11-6. They're still certainly the best team in the division at this point. So that's where I am with the Houston Texans. Up next, we have got the Indianapolis Colts, who are unfortunately returning their starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson. They did bring in Daniel Jones, but listen, man, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, you know? And that's kind of how I feel about bringing Daniel Jones in there behind Anthony Richardson. Kevin O'Connell can't cure all. And, you know, I think just a portion of a season sitting on the bench behind Sam Darnold, I don't think that's going to fix Daniel Jones. Just putting that out there. So, I mean, hey, let's just get into it, man. Let's just get into it. The Colts, let's just say I am worried about the job security for the head coach and the GM. I think we may be trending toward this being their last year in service, with no fault really to Shane Steichen, the head coach, I would say. Most of the fault going to, rest in peace, don't want to speak ill of the dead, but Jim Irsay being way too patient with the GM over there, whose name is escaping me for some reason. It's not Chris Greer. He's down with the Miami Dolphins. But listen, Chris Ballard, there we go, we found it. Chris Ballard, ownership has been entirely too patient with him. There's a new sheriff in town in Carly Irsay, and I think she's going to want to put her stamp on the franchise as a whole, for better or for worse. It's time. It's pretty justifiable with Chris Ballard, though. So if they don't have serious results this year, I don't see it happening for them. And, well, let's get into why I'm worried about them just based off of that preamble. So starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I mean, I would almost bet money that he's not going to be the starter by the end of the year. I think anyone that watched him in college, and I played the optimistic card coming into the draft, I will make no mistake about it. I understand why you draft a guy like that with those measurables, like 6'4", jumps out of the gym, 250 pounds. You thought you might be getting the next Cam Newton. You weren't, but you thought you might be. Or a souped-up Josh Allen even, with the arm strength and all that sort of stuff, the potential. I mean, some analysts even fooled themselves into thinking that he could develop quickly as a passer, which, tell me you don't watch college football, my friend, or you just watched yourself into a tape hole, because anyone who watched a cursory amount of Anthony Richardson in college, or really just looked at the stats and saw, 52% completion on his career, top 6 quarterback in the draft for sure. Top 6 pick in the draft for sure. I don't necessarily buy that. I think he's likely the worst starting quarterback in the league right now, unless we see something drastic from him. I just don't think he's got it between the ears, and so I'm not very optimistic on that front. So you're already off to a bad start on that. Backfield at the very least, you got Jonathan Taylor, Khalil Herbert. We'll see what he has left in the tank. Good for him for getting the job after the Bears. Then you bring in DJ Giddens from the college ranks. I would not be shocked even in the slightest bit if DJ Giddens ultimately takes Khalil Herbert's job as the backup there. In fact, that is my expectation throughout the season, because DJ Giddens is an animal. I loved to watch DJ Giddens in college when he was with Kansas State. He was getting like $140 basically every week, rushing on those Big 12 defenses. He's an explosive player. I really like DJ Giddens as a player. Jonathan Taylor, obviously the main man there, so don't hate the backfield at all. I think you can certainly work with that backfield. The wide receivers are just the same as they've always been. So you got Michael Pittman Jr., As a receiver on your receiving staff, you don't hate that. As a number 1 receiver, you could do a whole lot better. We'll just put it that way. Alec Pierce is the number 2, which should tell you everything you need to know about this receiving core. Josh Downs probably should technically be the number 2, but he's slated as the number 3. He's actually a pretty solid player. It's one of the better mid-round picks on offense that this guy has ever made, Chris Ballard has ever made. So, I mean, hey, credit where it's due. I like Josh Downs. A.D. Mitchell, I don't have high expectations there. And then you got Ashton Doolin, Anthony Gold. They cannot bring in a receiver to save their life. I'm seeing Laquan Treadwell on their depth chart. Now, granted, he is probably mostly there to play special teams. But if I see Laquan Treadwell on your wide receiver depth chart, not good. Not a good setup, sirs. So it's just the same problem you've seen over and over again with Chris Ballard. Little bright spot, they did bring in an absolute freak at tight end, Tyler Warren, who I think can do big-time things after the catch. I mean, all you had to do was just watch a game of him at Penn State, and you would immediately understand, okay, this guy is different. He can move like a 6'6" man should not be able to move. He is one of those athletic freaks at tight end. Who's to say what he is as a blocker? But as a guy after the catch, I think Tyler Warren is going to step in and do well right away. There's a reason he's slated as the starter right now, and it's not just because he was the first-round pick. I think it's because he truly deserves that billing, quite frankly. The quarterback play is what's going to be the ultimate limiting factor, but I expect big things out of Tyler Warren going forward. I think he's a really good player. The offensive line is just... Oh, let's just get into it. I mean... So the only real holdover left, or really only two real holdovers left from the starters last year, Braden Smith at right tackle, Quentin Nelson at left guard. Pretty much every other position has turned over in some way, shape, or form. I believe Ryan Kelly went over to the, Ryan Kelly and I feel bad for forgetting his name, Will Fries. Found it. Both went over to the Vikings this offseason. So there is that. But here's what we got going forward right now. So left tackle, we got Bernard Raymond. Wholly unknown player to me. Quentin Nelson at left guard, obviously the all-pro stud. Tanner Bortolini, who I was big up in last year heading into the draft, just because of his three-cone time. Very indicative of big things in the NFL. So, you know, I don't necessarily hate him stepping in there. He's just a little bit undersized at center, but the best center of all time was undersized. So how much of a limiting factor is that really in the grand scheme of things if you're great at other things? Interested to see how Tanner Bortolini does there. Matt Goncalves there at right guard. Sure. And then, of course, Braden Smith at right tackle. Here's the thing. I mean, it all kind of hinges on, to me, I mean, Tanner Bortolini is going to be a big one here. I don't think no matter what this offensive line is going to be great by any stretch of the imagination, but they can at least be serviceable running the ball if Tanner Bortolini works out in a way and, Quentin Nelson is still Quentin Nelson, to where he can still run the ball and create some opportunities at the very least in the passing game. You can work with that. If Tanner Bortolini is abjectly terrible, this is going to be a bad offense, man. Because Anthony Richardson can't throw the ball to save his life. Daniel Jones, ditto. And the receiving core is just straight up not up to par, man. I mean, Tyler Warren might be your best catch. Sorry, I don't want to disrespect Michael Pittman. But Tyler Warren might be your second best receiver year one. And that's not really speaking very highly of the wide receiver core. This offense, to me, finishes no higher than the middle of the pack, and I'm inclined to think that they finish in the 20s or worse even. They are not a good offense at all, and the quarterback situation gives me no confidence whatsoever. Their only path to any sort of reasonable success in my mind is to run a augmented option style offense, basically run the wing T at this point, because I don't see them doing it with Anthony Richardson. And the problem with doing that is both your quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, have proven time and time again that they are not the most durable guys in the world when they play that style. So Shane Steichen's got his work cut out for him. We'll just say that right now. I do not have high expectations for this offense at all. I think it's going to be not very good. Really not very good at all. And it falls directly on the shoulders of Chris Ballard. There's no other way to put it. Chris Ballard made this bed. Now him and Shane Steichen are going to have to sleep in it. Not all Shane Steichen's fault, but he's going to have to sleep in it too. They're going two halves of the bed. We don't join those halves necessarily, but hey, maybe you do if the feeling is right. Moving on from that, so the defense here, a little bit better. They did bring in Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator after just clinging on to dear life with Gus Bradley there for whatever reason. Hell, they made Shane Steichen take him on as the defensive coordinator. I say they. It was Jim Irsay that made him do that. But He's no longer in the building. They bring in Lou Anarumo, which is a upgrade. Kind of got a hose with the Bengals because they didn't give him any sort of personnel. But on the defensive line, we got Kwity Paye, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Laiatu Latu. Better have a much better year in the second year than you had in the first year. And then behind him, you got some sneaky solid depth. You got JT Tuamaloau in his first year, right behind Kwity Paye. Don't be shocked if he cracks the lineup here fairly early on. Maybe didn't quite live up to billing all the time with Ohio State, but was still a dominant player in spurts there. And there's a reason he was the number 1 overall player in the country whenever he committed to Ohio State and enrolled there. They also got Samson Ebukam as the backup to Laiatu Latu right now. A little bit iffy on the interior depth, but on the outside, if Laiatu Latu has a big second year, hopefully he does. You knock on wood if you are a Colts fan. Might be cooking with gas there a little bit on the front seven. Still nothing going to wow you, but you could be serviceable there on the front four, I should say. Behind him, there's a few more questions, I would say. So Jalen Carlies, I don't know for sure. It's like plural Carly, plural to Carly with a C. That's what it is basically there. But he's your weak side linebacker. I apologize to that man. I'm unfamiliar with your game. Zaire Franklin, I know him. He is a stud there on the interior. Also a very fun name. Zaire is just an underrated fun name. I love the name Zaire, man. Also Alshire. I just love I love those names. I don't know. Got very distracted by that for a second. And also Segun Olubi, which once again, I apologize to that man. I am unfamiliar with your game, but a lot to prove. A lot to prove on that front. Overall, in the front seven, I don't feel particularly confident about it. I will put it that way. You have some, I guess, call it young promise there on the front four as far as the pass rush is concerned. But the front seven, you look at it on the whole, is leaving something to be desired. I don't feel necessarily optimistic on that front. And you look at the back end, yes, you have Charvarius Ward in there for whatever that is worth at this stage in his career. You bring in Cam Bynum, which I'm sad to see him go from Minnesota. I like Cam Bynum a lot as a player. I think he's going to do very well there, and he's going to lift up the spirits of the entire defense. He's a great culture, great locker room guy, and you are guaranteed to have some solid celebrations because he was the celebration coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings, who had clips all the time of celebrations by the defense. So nothing else, your defense is going to have fun, I would say. And Nick Cross standing next to him as the strong safety. And, of course, you got Jalen Jones on the outside opposite of Charvarius Ward. Kenny Moore, one of the best nickels in the league, playing nickel on this defense. So I don't really know. I think the virtue of having Lou Anarumo there, by virtue of having him there, I think you're going to end up in the middle of the pack. Like anywhere between I wouldn't put him up that high. I mean, I guess anywhere from 16 to 19, anywhere in there. Probably lower middle of the pack, but middle of the pack, I would say. I think schematically he's going to do some things for you to cover up some deficiencies, but once again, falls squarely on the shoulders of Chris Ballard, man. You got a quarterback on a rookie contract, and you put together this roster. It's just inexcusable. I don't care if you are in Indianapolis, man. I don't care. I know it's a hard selling point for wide receivers and stuff. By God, the Cleveland Browns get players to go there sometimes. I mean, it's not like, who else can I pull out here? I mean, it's not like Minnesota's in a destination city in Minneapolis. It's cold as hell there. It's a great city, but my God, the winters suck. And if you didn't know, football is a sport that crosses over into winter, and you have to stay in Minnesota, ideally until February, if everything goes as according to plan. And I mean, Green Bay Packers, they're not exactly a free agent powerhouse, but they consistently put together a good roster. You do not have an excuse for putting out a roster like this however many years into his tenure that Chris Ballard is. It's just inexcusable at this point. But you take it all holistically, you look at the full team. I mean, worst case scenario, this could be one of the worst teams in football. I mean, you look at the way the quarterback situation is shaping out. it's looking to me more and more like this could be a really bad team, like possibly like bottom of the division bad. Like floor, I could definitely see him getting like 4 wins this year. If things really fall through for the defense and they're worse than I expect, if the quarterback situation truly torpedoes the offense and they're like 30 or worse on offense rankings wise, I could easily see them going 4-13, and I could see everyone being fired by the end of the season. Even in the best case, rosiest scenarios, I do not see them going above 500. I feel like 8-9 is the absolute peak, and I am telling you now, that is if Shane Steichen is coaching his ass off. I mean, pulling it straight out of his keister at points, because this is not a good roster. From top to bottom, they got a couple good pieces, but this is not a good roster holistically. It is going to be very, very tough, if not impossible, for the Colts to make the playoffs. The only saving grace is the division they're in, because everyone kind of stinks in this division. Everyone's rebuilding in some form or fashion at some various phase. No one is a finished product at this stage, which is your only saving grace. I don't see him finishing any better than 8-9, though. That's really the peak that I see on him. Where are we at time-wise? Holy shit, we're almost at an hour, and I got 2 more teams. Good thing we can kind of breeze through these next 2. So we got 2 top 3 picks here in the NFL. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. So they fired everyone, got rid of Doug Peterson, finally got that snake Trent Baalke out of the building. So they bring in the young boy from the Rams who looks just like, he looks younger than me. And I mean, I'm not exactly a spring chicken at this point, but he looks younger than me at the age of 29, and especially with this lack of a beard that makes me look even younger than I am. He's also got a baby face. So yeah, he just looks like a young boy. They also bring in Liam Cohen. Duval. Weird guy. Very good offensive mind, though. We'll see if he commands a locker room. Truly won't know answers to that until we get further down the line. We just got to let this thing evolve and marinate a bit. But improved in many ways. James Gladstone. Found the GM's name. James Gladstone did a pretty solid job this offseason. Questionable trade for Travis Hunter as far as the value lines up. If Travis Hunter ends up being a star on both sides of the ball, it truly does not matter one bit, as long as he can stay healthy. So, with all that said, there's a lot of excitement in Jacksonville. Let's see what we think about this roster here. So I will spoil. I actually feel a little bit better about the Jaguars than I do about the Colts here. I think they have a little bit more momentum going in the right direction, which sounds crazy coming off of what was it, like a 4-13 season? 3-14? They were bad last year. We'll just put it that way. Even with that, they got some hope coming into this season. So let's look at the offense here first off. Trevor Lawrence is still your starting quarterback. You hope he doesn't go down because Nick Mullins and John Wolford are your backups. Not fun. Not great, and I would be worried about that considering Trevor Lawrence's injury history really just over the course of the last season. He tries not to sit out, but yeah, he does get banged up back there behind that bad offensive line, which, spoiler alert, not a whole lot better this time around. But he is still your starting quarterback. Backfield, new regime, same old shit. They drafted another running back here in the mid-rounds. In Bashal Tutton, he is currently the 3rd-string running back. Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby make up the 1 and 2, respectively. That's a damn deep backfield, and I just have a hard time not seeing Bashal Tutton crack that lineup there. I don't care if they have to use all 3 of them in equal measure, man. I just feel like you got to get Bashal Tutton in the game. I feel like he's a guy that's going to flash off a screen. He is a shorter guy, but he's thick, runs the hell out of the ball. The fastest running back in this draft, really just jumped off the charts athletically, and it shows up on the tape. This guy is an absolute monster. He could really take Tank Bigsby's job. Travis Etienne, you better not get hurt because Bashal Tutton is coming, and this is what happens when you are a running back in the league, especially one like Travis Etienne, who is the check's about coming due on that next contract, the second contract for Travis Etienne. And previous regime guy, do you decide to invest that heavily in a running back when you have other areas to address, and maybe he's not the best running back in the league? You can kind of read the tea leaves there that maybe Travis Etienne might be going in free agency here at some point. But keep an eye on Bashal Tutton in that backfield. I think he could be a difference maker for him, especially in this new scheme with Liam Cohen as the offensive coordinator there and head coach. Wide receivers, I mean, it's starting to come along. I mean, you still got some work to do. You shed some dead weight there in Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk from last year's roster. It just goes to show how dumb Trent Baalke is. He signed Gabe Davis to like a $13 million a year contract, and they cut him a year later for very justifiable performance-based reasons. So, yeah, good riddance with Trent Baalke. It's amazing he stayed there as long as he did. You got Brian Thomas Jr. as the number one at this point. Big time step up and roll from him, but he basically was that towards the end of last season too. Expect big things from him in this new scheme. Also, we just got an update here. Tyler Guyton, I believe tackle for the Cowboys. Talked about him earlier going down with an injury. He got carted off. Confirmed now coming across my timeline here. He has torn his ACL. He will be out for the season. So good luck, Cowboys fans. Back to the Jaguars here. Travis Hunter is the number two. It's worth questioning how many snaps he's going to play on offense. I have a hard time seeing him playing both sides, both ways, or both full-time both ways. That was confusing. But I do think he's going to be used a lot on the offensive side. It's just a matter of how much. Interested to see how that works out. And then, listen, man, if De'Ami Brown is your third receiver, I think that's kind of an indicative of the depth overall. Barring the possibility that Travis Hunter just comes out and is the Shohei Ohtani of football, which is completely possible based on what he did in college because he dominated both sides in college. Barring that possibility, it's Liam Cohen has his work cut out for him with the receiving concepts, but he did a hell of a job for Baker Mayfield. It is worth noting that he had much better receivers with Baker Mayfield. Also, maybe Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. I didn't say it, but people might be saying it at various points. So, yeah, not too hot on the wide receiver core. Brenton Strange is your tight end. Johnny Mundt is the backup. Shout out to Johnny Mundt. Good player for the Vikings for a long time. Very good glue guy down there or up there in Minnesota. Down on the offensive line. Work in progress, we'll say. A lot of placeholders here. So we got Walker Little at left tackle. Ezra Cleveland does kill people, but it's worth questioning how good he is on the offensive line at left guard. Center Robert Hainsey is there at center, which if he was a little bit better, he probably would still be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Liam Cohen liked him enough to bring him over to the Jaguars, I suppose. Patrick McCarry there at right guard. Good depth player, but maybe not who you want there starting at, your right guard. And then Anton Harrison at right tackle. Not a particularly good unit. I think Liam Cohen is going to have to scheme around some things. And I think it's going to make it a little bit difficult for him. Also, by the way, forgot about Louis Rees-Zammit, I think. I don't know. He's the rugby star that came over and tried to play for the Chiefs last year. Hey, he's on a roster right now. Emphasis on right now. He's like the 8th string wide receiver. He's probably a special teams player if he makes the team at all. That's besides the point, though. Looking at this offense holistically speaking, I have a hard time seeing him finish above the middle of the pack. I don't think they're going to be bad. I feel pretty good about Liam Cohen as an offensive coordinator here at this point. I obviously never been a head coach, but there's a reason why he got this job. Did a hell of a job with Baker Mayfield last year. So, hey, maybe it works out this time around. I would be shocked if they were pushing the top 10, frankly. I just don't think they have the bodies to do it. And we're going to find out really this year whether this coaching staff was the right decision as far as hiring is concerned. Because it's not like this team is bad. They're not terrible. But the offensive line is a work in progress, and Liam Cohen absolutely has his job cut out for him here in year one. Other side of the ball on the defense. A bit more interesting on this side of the ball, although no less questions, I would say. Josh Hines-Allen is over there at the left defensive end. Davon Hamilton, Eric Armstead, and Trayvon Walker round out the front four. Sure. Outside of Josh Hines-Allen, who has just been buried on a bad roster for a long time, one of the more unheralded great pass rushers in the league right now. He is damn good, a real freak, and has been one of the only players for this Jaguars team that has just showed up as advertised from day one. I think it took him like number 2 overall back in the day, and he's just been nothing but solid and consistent since he showed up. Just a monster year in, year out, and they just wasted away his best years. Also, back behind that, you got Foye Oluokun, who is a tackling machine but was banged up last year. Devin Lloyd there in the middle, and Ventrell Miller as well. Sure. Why not? At the cornerbacks, you have got Jerrion Jones and Tyson Campbell. They're on the outside. Then you got Darnell. I'm a big-time Savage there at free safety, which, worth noting, this is not the Darnell Savage of 3 years ago. This is the Darnell Savage of 2025. And Eric Murray at strong safety. Honestly, and this is just a honesty hour right here, I felt a lot better about this team before I took a look at the roster. Taking a look at it now, I'm putting them right there on par with the Colts. They could be like a 4-13 team. I have a hard time seeing them finish better than 8-9. I think they're about as equivalent as you can get. I think the Colts probably have a few more players on the defensive side of the ball. Colts probably have a few more players on the defensive side of the ball. Jaguars probably have a few more players on the offensive side of the ball. All told, all together, probably just okay. Travis Hunter looks like he's currently slated as a backup on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to factor in some way, shape, or form. Again, if Travis Hunter can step in there, maybe you bump him up to 9-8. Maybe that's good enough to win the division this year. I don't know. But I'm going to have to see it to believe it when it comes to Travis Hunter's durability playing both sides of the ball at that size at the NFL level. I have a hard time seeing it, but I am open to being proven wrong, and frankly, I hope I do, because I would love to see a player like Travis Hunter truly thrive. He's already unlike anything we've ever seen, so I'm pretty excited to see how that works out. Like I said, best case scenario, probably 9-8. We'll bump that up there. Worst case, certainly 4-13. They could be right where they were last season and not have the first round pick to show for it because they already sent it over to, I forget the team. Was it the Giants there that traded back? No, it was the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns that traded back from 2. I apologize. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see. I don't hate the Jaguars this year, but they're certainly in a rebuilding year. We'll see what James Gladstone does going forward here. Okie dokie. We have got the final team in this division, the number 1 overall pick last year. Yes, we are talking about the putrid Tennessee Titans. They earned themselves Cam Ward at the top of the draft. Completely cleared the deck. Well, not completely. They still have Brian Callahan there as the head coach. Now you bring in a new guy, Mike Borgonzi, as the GM. Rand Carthon turns out a lot better smuggler in the galaxy far, far away in Star Wars than he is as a GM in the NFL. Unfortunately, that is the case. It is what it is, folks. It is what it is. But really only one direction to go for the Tennessee Titans, and that is up. That is the only direction that we have. I will say news on this front that I saved until this point because it was very applicable here. Treylon Burks, I saw the headline over the weekend and I knew exactly what was going to happen at that point. I just immediately, I saw the headline and just knew what the final outcome was going to be, but it was confirmed today. Treylon Burks broke his collarbone going for a one-handed grab in practice. Knowing the history with Treylon Burks, how he hasn't been durable and he has not really played well when he has been on the field and has been pushed out of the lineup in many cases by players that were not drafted nearly as highly as he was, I knew what the end result was going to be, and that ultimately came to fruition today. Tennessee Titans cut Treylon Burks, so he is now going through waivers. We will see who picks him up with that collarbone injury. I don't think anyone's going to pick him up off waivers. I think he's going to clear waivers, and the Tennessee Titans are going to be on the hook for that contract. We shall see if and when he goes somewhere else. But that kind of let the total the total number on that, the total tally on that that Eagles trade that sent A.J. Brown over to the Philadelphia Eagles, who notably won a Super Bowl with A.J. Brown, by the way, and went to another one in that time frame. So the Eagles got A.J. Brown. The Titans, I believe, if I am not mistaken, ended up getting, in the aggregate, Treylon Burks, I believe I forget the cornerback, Roger McCreary, I think they got there as well. I mean, could be worse, I guess, but could be a whole lot better. Could be A.J. Brown, even. And then some other rotational player that ultimately hasn't amounted to anything. So, yeah, again, Rand Carthon, better smuggler than he was as a GM. And I'm talking specifically in the Star Wars universe. I'm not accusing anyone of anything in the real world. I'm just saying that's a Star Wars name right there. I mean, we'll keep it moving from there. But with all that said, let's just get into the roster, shall we? Because they've made some improvements here and there. I will not lie. They made a couple improvements. So let's crack this thing open and see where we're at. So first and foremost, we got number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, coming in as the starter. Will Levis on IR now, and he wasn't going to push Cam Ward to be the starter anyways. I mean, that's Cam Ward's team. If he treated the Tennessee Titans anyway like he treated the Miami Hurricanes, he probably grabbed that leadership role by the balls from day one. I would expect nothing different from Cam Ward. I just think he's a special leader, and if he plays his cards right, he can be a special player, but he's a wild boy. He's a real wild boy. He has a real chance to challenge for Peyton Manning's record for interceptions. I will say that right now. He throws some wild, completely ill-advised passes that are going to drive Brian Callahan crazy, but I think the highs are going to be a lot higher than you saw with Will Levis whenever he was in there. So, love Cam Ward. I thought coming into this draft, he was the only guy that I would put a stamp on and say that guy has real star potential. I just felt very strongly about Cam Ward going into this thing, so I like Cam Ward. What does he have around him? So he still has Tony Pollard at running back. Tyjae Spears is the backup. They got Julius Chestnut, not to be confused with Joey over there, as the third string. Then they got Kalel Mullings, as the fourth string, who they just brought in from the draft, a guy that could ultimately find his way into a more prominent role as things go along here. Wide receivers, you got Calvin Ridley coming back. You bring in Tyler Lockett from the Seattle Seahawks. Van Jefferson is there. Sure, why not? You draft, I'm going to butcher this name, but Chimera DK? Just totally butchered that one. And then a bunch of guys that I don't necessarily know out there. Then, of course, you got Chigo Okonkwo coming back once again as the tight end there. They drafted him a couple years ago in the later rounds of the draft. Explosive guy if you can get the ball in his hands. As far as the wide receiver core is concerned, I'm not sure I feel dramatically different from how I feel about the Jaguars receiving core. So there's that. I don't really have a whole lot of nice things to say outside of, Calvin Ridley's still a pretty solid receiver. You hope that DK turns into a good player there and kind of, assumes more of Van Jefferson's role, because I know what I'm getting from Van Jefferson. It's not particularly fantastic. Tyler Lockett, solid receiver for a young receiver to have, I would say. He's got sure hands, a staple in that Seahawks offense for a long time, dating back to the very earliest days of Russell Wilson. Actually, maybe not the very earliest, because he did take Baldwin's job at one point, I'm pretty sure. Played alongside Baldwin for a while, but ended up taking his job. So, hey, I like Tyler Lockett. I like Calvin Ridley. I like the quarterback in Cam Ward. So far, I truly probably feel better about the offense than I would with either the Colts or the Jaguars, quite frankly, even with how deep the Jaguars' backfield is. Then you go ahead and you look at the... whatever. I keep getting texts. I'm just a popular guy. I mean, I can't help it. It just is what it is. I just ooze charisma. I can't help it, man. It's just kind of the way things are. So... offensive line starting to come along a little bit. They pick up Dan Moore from the Steelers, which, sure, why not, I suppose. Peter Skoronski is coming into his third year, I believe. He's now slided right in there at guard. Lloyd smoking that good Cush. Cushenberry is at center. I believe they signed him in free agency this past year. Kevin Zeitler, again, sure, could do a whole lot worse as a starting right guard. And last year's first-round pick, J.C. Latham, slating in there at right tackle. And I think you're going to start to have a bit of a test of Brian Callahan's offensive mettle with this personnel group, because it's not terrible. It's not terrible at all as far as, if you want to rank them as far as personnel groups in the division. I'd probably put them right there at number 2 behind the Houston Texans. Frankly, I don't think anyone in this division has a top-flight offensive group just whatsoever. But you're probably slotting in there right there behind the Houston Texans, really just by virtue of the Houston Texans having C.J. Stroud, quite frankly. There's not really a whole lot of separation there. So with the pieces in place, you got a quarterback with a laser rocket arm. Might be the strongest arm in the division. We'll just have to compare those to C.J. Stroud and Cameron Ward when it's all said and done. But I love Cam Ward. We'll see what he does with them. It's all up to Brian Callahan to prove what he still hasn't proven to me, which is why the hell he got this job as an offensive coordinator. And really, he didn't call plays when he was with the Tennessee Titans. When he was with the Cincinnati Bengals, because the head coach was calling plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. So we shall see. We shall see. I'm not gonna count my eggs before they hatch. I would say the baseline expectation for me is probably lower middle of the pack, just by virtue of having a rookie quarterback. But if Brian Callahan shows up as advertised, they could finish in a better spot than I would be expecting. That's really going to be the determining factor, though. How good are you, Brian Callahan? Because I still don't know. I don't know if anyone in that Tennessee Titans organization truly knows how good Brian Callahan is at this point. I think we're going to start to see just how good he is this year, though, because he does not have a bare cupboard to work with. It's not exactly fully stocked, necessarily, but it's not a bare cupboard that he's working with. So he has got some proving to do with this Titans offense. We'll see what he does. We will see what he does. Defensively, still very much a work in progress here. Interesting. Still very much a work in progress here, but still got Jeffrey Simmons there, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Hail State, baby. He is still on that defensive line. You bring in Tavondre Sweat, I believe, in the second or third round. I can't remember exactly which one. But he is there as the nose tackle now. And a guy that looks like a nose tackle, by the way. He is a giant human being of Jordan Davis proportions, if not necessarily the Jordan Davis athletic measurables there on the interior. And Sebastian Joseph Day they bring back for another year there, a long-time veteran defensive tackle in the league. Maybe not a flashy player, but good enough in many situations. You just wonder if he's good enough now at this stage in his career. On the outside, you got Draymond Jones with, it looks like Arden Key rushing opposite from him. So, gross. Just going to put that out there. Kind of gross. Cody Barton is the left interior linebacker, whatever that means. And then you have Otis Reese IV. Shout out to the 3 preceding Otis Reeses before Otis Reese IV. I am unfamiliar with your game, sir, unfortunately. Overall, hey, at least you have Jeffrey Simmons, right? Outside of him, though, that's a rough front seven. That is a tough group on the front seven. I have a feeling they're going to have some trouble stopping the run if Jeffrey Simmons doesn't blow up the play early. And if Tavondre Sweat doesn't completely clog up the inside. You just hope at that point you got some guys who can run sideline to sideline, because you're going to have to compensate for some things on the defensive side of the ball there in the front seven. I'll just say that right now. You're not off to a great start. L'Jarius Sneed is out there on the back end, though he is currently dealing with an injury, so he's listed as out at the current moment. You got Amani Hooker on the back end there, who had himself a solid season, I suppose. Well, they were a terrible defense. I can't say he had a solid season. You got Xavier Woods next to him, who has been good in the past as well. And opposite of L'Jarius Sneed, you got Jarvis Brownlee Jr., which, again, not particularly familiar with your game. They do have Roger McCreary there as the nickelback. He wasn't terrible, I suppose. So, could be worse. Also could be A.J. Brown there, though. So, not letting that one go. Overall, you look at this defense, I don't think they're going to be all that good. You just hope that they're better than last season, which is a low bar to clear because they were pretty terrible last season. They were one of the worst defenses in the entire league. You just hope maybe they're a little bit better this year. But I just don't know that the cupboard is stocked well enough to make that claim. So, to make a long story short, I think the Titans are still the worst team in this division. The only thing that could probably separate them from the Colts right now, which would be my pick otherwise for worst team in the division, is the fact that I feel good about Cam Ward as a starting quarterback in a way that I don't feel about either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson with the Indianapolis Colts. That being said, their floor is lower than anyone else. I would say they could very easily end up right back where they were last year with 3 wins, 3-14, and right there at the top of the draft next year, which they would certainly trade away for a raft of draft capital. That's what you have to do when the roster is as bereft as it is right now. But I see some upside for this team. I think there's a wide bandwidth of possible outcomes here. I could see them maybe not doing the full Washington Commies thing like they did last year, but maybe they go 9-8. I could see that. If Cam Ward shows up as advertised and Brian Callahan, I guess, shows you what the Tennessee Titans organization saw when they hired him, I could very easily see this being a 9-8 crew. Very, very much possibly in the offing there. So that's kind of how I feel about that. The energy saver did just turn on, so I'm going to let you all go at this point, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. Go ahead, subscribe, like, rate, follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. Just share it with a friend. Shoot me a DM if you want to opine. Unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com is the email address. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I am talking about. Did I put one thing that I learned this week? Did I learn anything this week? That's a good question. I didn't put one thing I learned this week because I've been slacking big time on that because I'm not listening to quite as many informational podcasts. But one thing I learned this week is that, whenever Mary Queen of Scots came to power, there was a very real chance that she could have been, and was for a little bit, Queen of both Scotland and France, which would have united the kingdoms, which would have shifted the balance of power in Europe from more or less equal footing with England to France being the superior power. Who knows if they could have used Scotland to launch an invasion into England, which they ultimately tried at various points in history. What could have been if Mary Queen of Scots was the queen of both countries there. But there you go. That's one thing I learned this week, and I legitimately learned that this week, by the way. I'm going to go edit this thing. I'm going to actually plug this in before it completely dies on me. You guys have a good week. We will be back next week with the NFC South, which we'll see if they're any better than this one. I'll talk to you guys then. See ya.